And as these games continue, they're moving forward, and obviously the big twist at the end, Joker gets axed. Another victim to Batman's horrendous murder spree of the innocent, poor, mentally ill. Because Batman doesn't care about your health problems. And so after he kills the Joker, the game's like, well, we got to figure out a way to still have Mark Hamill in this somehow. So we're going back in time. We're going to Origins, baby. Woo!
Hold on.
It's not even Mark Hamill anyway.
It's not even Mark Hamill.
Hold on, before we jump there, this is the one part I want to talk about. Back in City, my favorite line from Kevin Conroy.
You brought that up.
Yes. It's the very end, whenever like basically Batman is just talking to himself, and like mind you, the whole since Asylum they've been setting this up really well, where it's just like Batman's just like, like I stop you, I put you in jail, you break out, you kill more people. He has the cure in his hand. Batman himself has been cured now. It's just Joker left, and it's like Batman is about to make a decision, but before he can, Joker just comes up from behind him and stabs him, forcing Batman to drop the cure. Shatters. Joker, it's very pitiful. Joker just gets on his knees, just tries to like scrounge up any bit of the cure and lick it off the ground to save himself. Just love Joker's like, "Are you happy now?" And then Batman delivers one of my favorite lines. Kevin does, and it's just so good. Because I think you can read it into so many ways. He just says, "You want to know something funny? Despite everything you've done, I would have still saved you." Even after this Joker kills his ex-girlfriend, Talia al Ghul, literally just minutes ago, Batman would have still saved him. And followed by one of the best Batman lines, one of the best Joker lines. Joker's dying on the ground, coughing and laughing, and he says, like, "You know what? That's actually pretty funny." And then he dies. And that's my favorite scene. Like, I don't know. Like, for me, I feel like there's so many layers of, like, is this Batman kind of mocking Joker? Is it his own weird way of pitying him? Of, like, like finally letting the sort of the dour sort of seriousness drop for a second and be like, "You want to know something funny, Joker?" Like what is it? Like I don't know. Like their relationship is so complicated.
I even read as like, is it Batman saying that to like justify himself, like to reassure himself of just like, no, I'm the good person here. You would have lived. This is your fault. But like, and Joker's just like, "You freaking idiot."
Yeah,
there's so many ways to interpret it. Yeah,
and I like it's such like a. I feel like the closest I could think of, this is deep comic stuff, is it feels the closest to something like Killing Joke, the end of that graphic novel, where if you've read it, the big question is, does Batman kill Joker at the end of that comic? That line feels like the same to me, where it's so ambiguous on what Batman's intentions are there. It's because I think you can argue it so many ways. My favorite line delivery. My God, it's so good.
It's just like such a cherry on top at the very end of like that story. And it's, oh my God, those two. God, I said earlier that like they're amazing, and they always will be amazing. And yeah, we just have them immortalized in this game now. So yeah, City was gonna be first. No one is really surprised why City is our number one favorite.
Oh yeah.
Moving on to the next game. They kind of, after there's a bit of a couple of years like pause after City, and a lot of people would probably be fine if just like City was the last one, because how the hell do you follow that up? And their answer is to go backwards with Origins, and a lot of people
and have WB Games make it.
And I feel like a lot of people,
because I mean, like the story behind it was that basically they needed time to work on Night, so they were like, "Hey, this is going to take a few years because we really want Night to be super good." So Warner Brothers was still like, "Well, we still want a Batman game." It was like, we're not going to just sit on this money here. We want a Batman game. So they basically contracted Warner Brothers, Warner Brother Game Studios. I think it's WB Montreal is the name of the studio, and they were like, "Hey, you guys take the helm on the Batman game," and it was Origins. They did Origins, which is, by the way, when I looked up the timeline on it, this is weird. So apparently, City only takes about like 6 or so months after Asylum, and Night also only takes about 6 or so months after City. So really, it's about
Kind of
like
insane.
that trilogy is just a year and a half. Origins is roughly 7 to 8 years before all of this.
Yeah.
That's where Origins is, which is it's crazy, especially since it's like Batman already had a lot of the same gadgets that he got in Asylum and City.
7
all
years
the way
ago.
back then.
Hey man,
Yeah.
if it works, don't fix, or if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It worked.
Even though,
So-
even though it's like you had like the glue grenade, which functions the exact same way as the
It's the
freeze
ice
grenade.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even
Bro.
I would argue Batman's most OP fucking thing that he never uses again, the fucking shock gloves, which is like
Oh, yeah.
ridiculously overpowered. Those are not only like great in combat, they absolutely just shred bosses' health. Like it's ridiculous.
Yeah. I'll say Origins is always like, I feel like it's the black sheep that makes this trilogy into a quartet. I don't know what the word would be. I don't know if it deserves all the hate it gets. I know it's different.
I don't think so.
Don't think so.
Yeah. I think it's a bit.
It's
a bit overshadowed. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's good. It very clearly is like, I mean, it's a studio that's taken the helm of someone else's franchise, you know, and that's always like kind of iffy.
Yeah.
I think like, while I do think the story isn't quite as good as like Asylum or City, I do think it does have a very sort of like, it has like a classic format for a good Batman story where like it's set during a specific holiday. There's something going on in the city at night, and it's cool. The idea of like jumping in at Batman, where basically it's like Batman Year One. If you ever like read that comic or ever like watched the animated film, which I
Yeah.
do recommend. I remember, by the way, funny enough, one of my favorite experiences about getting Arkham City is some copies of Arkham City also had like the Batman Year One movie in it. So I remember watching it also after beating Arkham City. Great animated film. It's really cool. But Arkham Origins is basically that sort of take on it of like, this is a Batman who not completely just starting out, but it's still one that's getting his footing and still
Yeah,
like
it's like year 2, kind of.
Yeah.
yeah, it's more like exactly. It's more like Year Two Batman. I personally I have a soft spot for Origins. I think, you know, it's set in Gotham, proper, like not just Arkham City where it's a section of the city, and not full Gotham, I don't think, but it is like Gotham. It's Christmas time. It is Christmas Eve, rather, if I remember correctly, and it is like a massive blizzard has hit the city. So yes, it's an excuse to keep civilians off the street and just focus on the bad guys being out. But I think there's just something about like Batman is, weirdly enough, there's a lot of comic book stories about Batman where it's tied, like the setting is tied to the holiday. Like Batman the Long Halloween is another good example, where it's tied to a specific holiday. So in this case, it's like it's Christmas. There was a time where I would play Origins every time it got close to Christmas because it always put me in the right mood for it. But I one of the things I love about this game is the most wanted story to it, where basically you're introduced to a younger Batman. He goes to Blackgate because there's a big riot going on there. He fights Killer Croc, and as he beats down Killer Croc, he learns that like Black Mask has put a bounty on Batman's head, and so it's like the most wanted. Like all these like assassins are coming after him you have Bane, you have Shiva, you have people you hadn't heard of like Copperhead and Firefly, and you also got like the big guy, not on the cover, but used a lot in the marketing material, Deathstroke, which is we'll get into him, of course. I like this as like a video game idea. It's kind of like, it's a sin. I still haven't watched Scott Pilgrim, but it kind of feels like that, where it's just like it's like what is it like? Here's my 7 evil exes. It's like here's my seven evil assassins coming for Batman, and it's like. It's such a classic video game format of like, all right, these are the people you're going to fight. And what I like about it is you do meet all these like assassins coming after Batman. A lot of them are in the main story, but some of them are tied to like side quests you have to complete. I'm like, that's cool. I like that a lot. Oh yeah, Deadshot's here too again. I don't know why they're so enamored with Deadshot.
It's not the real Deadshot. It's a phony, Seth. The real one took care of that poser.
Oh, God. But that's also okay. Because it is WB Montreal. And the reason we kind of brought this up was also because WB Montreal made Suicide Squad kill the Justice League. And so
that was Rocksteady.
That was Rox.
Or my bad.
Yeah.
WB Montreal made Gotham Knights, right?
Yeah, which is not connected to the Arkham universe.
Even though.
But it's also still not good.
No.
Okay.
It's better than Suicide Squad.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm not going to play either. Anyway, ready, yeah.
I'll say this. I mean, I'll just say this much. The Batman death scenes that they put into Gotham Knight were way more respectful to that character than the ones in Suicide Squad. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I think Suicide Squad just makes me more angry because it takes place in the same universe.
That's fair.
Anyway, sorry, I was about to go on a rant about that.
No, go ahead. No, rant on.
I think there's been enough YouTube videos for people to put together that it's frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and none of us have played, as Drew you pointed out, none of us have actually played the game. So we're just like everybody else. We're just trying to like understand. Why the fuck would Rocksteady, who seem to know their shit pretty well, just suddenly just drop the ball here? But anyways, yes. Sorry, Drew. When I brought up Deadshot, I didn't mean for it to tie into the Suicide Squad. I just thought we would go back to your rant about how much you just hate basically Warner Brothers and DC's weird fascination with the guy that everybody keeps confusing for Deathstroke.
Yeah. So, okay, this is what you were trying to get me to do. No, I got you. Okay, why the fuck do people like Deadshot? He's just not... He's a less cool version of fucking Hawkeye, and Hawkeye's not even cool. Literally, you have a better version of Deadshot in Deathstroke. He's literally the same thing, just he has a sword, though, so he's cooler. But for some reason, they're like, we like Gun Guy. And I'm like, when did this start? Because back when like Origins was made, this was such a D-tier level Batman hero. But ever since like Suicide Squad started gaining more traction, and it's probably because of Will Smith, because he played him. But every single Suicide Squad medium has to have both Harley Quinn, which I understand, that's a cool character, but Harley Quinn and Deadshot. Why? Why do people actually love Deadshot? Because this had him, fucking Injustice 2 had him, the Suicide Squad, even the new Suicide Squad had Idris Elba's, which like basically was Deadshot, but I kind of like that character more.
Cooler.
Yeah, but cooler.
Yeah.
But I think I just like it because it was Idris Elba.
Smaller bullets.
Yeah. The new Suicide Squad, any animated thing with the Suicide Squad has to have Deadshot in it. Like, why? Do people... where are my Deadshot stands? Who are
Sound
you
off
people?
The comment.
Yeah.
Yeah, who the fuck are you? I'm going to reinforce Drew's point on this because I kind of agree. It's very weird, their fascination, because when both in Origins and in City, when you interact with Deadshot, he comes across as a whiny bitch. I don't know if you remember his side quest, but I thought it was funny where like when he misses the shot on Batman, he has an absolute fit. He's like a child. I thought, oh, that's the whole point. This guy is such a perfectionist that he becomes like a little petty bitch whenever he doesn't get the shot. And he's like, what? Yes, impossible. It's like a fucking like incel gamer was a villain, and that's what Deadshot was depicted. But here's the weird thing. Apparently it is tied to the Arkham universe. There's a bunch of weird stuff. The animated Suicide Squad movie, Suicide Squad Assault on Arkham, is tied to the Arkham universe. They have Deadshot in that, but he's like a completely different character, and they try to make him as cool as possible in that movie. He basically he gets with Harley Quinn, like they have sex. It's like to the point where like Harley is like, he's my new boyfriend now. And then they
so
also
cool.
have and they also have him get in a one-on-one fight with Joker and win.
Not just a one-on-one fight. A point where he this is a quote in the movie, "You out crazied the Joker," is exactly a line from it. And I'm like, that actual scene is the stupid. I'm sorry, I'm ranting about this. You brought up Deadshot. I'm ranting about this.
Go
shit.
for it.
The whole scene is like Joker pulls up and he's got a gun to Deadshot head, and Deadshot's like, "Do it. You're out of bullets." And he's like, "No, I'm not." And you're like, "Yeah, you are. You're gonna pull the trigger. Nothing's gonna happen. Then I'm gonna punch you." And then Joker's like, wait a minute. Let me see something. And he shoots in the sky. And it's like, no, there's bullets. And then Deadshot punches him. That's so fucking stupid, even for Joker. You know how you test to see if you have bullets or not? Fire at him! When it's on his nose! Like, that scene's sort of good, like, you're out of bullets. No, I'm not. Bang! And then everyone goes, that was really stupid.
That is...
And I'm just like... That's not Deadshot being smart. That's Joker being a fucking moron.
It feels like the whole... It really does feel like this, where the whole movie kind of feels like it's formatted to make, oh, look at how badass Deadshot is, you know? Even though, if this is set in the Arkham universe, this is the same Deadshot that cries like a little bitch whenever he misses the shot on Batman. Like, he literally becomes like a whiny little bitch in, like, both Origins and City, where he's depicted. It's just like, why did we make such a big deal out of this character? Like, you can't tell me they're the same character. Also, it feels like someone's OC, where they're just like, he's so fucking cool compared to everyone, the gun guy. And it's just like, I agree with Drew on this. Like, the fascination with Deadshot is fucking weird. It's just so weird, especially since his backstory is just like, I'm a criminal, but I've got a daughter, and it's just like,
I feel like I've seen his backstory like so many times, just like done better. Of just like, you know what? I just realized what he is. I figured it out, Seth. I cracked the code. He has the exact same backstory as Sandman. That's what it is. Except Sandman I actually care about, because Sandman. Yeah.
Give me a gun. Dun, 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 dun.
Because the only difference is
a pathetic character.
No, but Sandman's a good character because Sandman wasn't a bad, like, he's not a bad person. He doesn't try to act cool. He's a criminal by, like, necessity. Like, he doesn't want to be. But he's like, well, I have to. I have to, like, I'm not smart. I failed out of college. I have to do something to provide. So I rob banks. I don't want to do this. I want to provide. Versus Deadshot, I feel like they give him a daughter just so, like, no, he's not all terrible. Look, he has one person in this world he cares about. His Spawn. And I'm just like, it's the same story, just with, like, a less interesting character.
It's like, oh, but he's actually, like, kind of a good dad. And it's just like, whatever shit. I do like how in the new Suicide Squad movie, where Bloodsport, the, like, equivalent of Deadshot, they're kind of like, what would a person like this actually be like as a father? And then you have the scene where they're both going, fuck you, no, fuck you. And just like, like with
Amanda Waller threatening to, like, all right, we can throw him in juvie. Fuck it, juvie will probably be good for him. Fuck that kid. And it's not until she actually threatens her life, I'm just like, she will get murdered by prisoners. I'm like, all right, now I'll help. Like, it has to go to that level of like, I don't actually really like my daughter that much. But I don't want you to kill her.
Yeah, I think, and I think that's like more realistic. Is Bloodsport like? Imagine this, like someone being like an assassin, like a world class assassin, and then they have a daughter. Would they be a good dad? Probably not. But at least it's like it shows like yes, he is not a good father at all, but he still like to some level cares. It's like that's more realistic than just having something like Deadshot, where he's just like, oh yeah, he's just suddenly like a good dad, but he's also like a fucking like person who kills for money. Like, it's just like it's more than just that base level of nuance there, because I feel like Deadshot just doesn't have nuance.
No, you're right. He does feel like someone's just OC. I don't even think he's. That's just more Deadshot, the character in general, because like bringing it back in Origins, I don't think he's like that too much. He is just kind of like a whiny OC like bitch, which I think is fine because at least that's at least a character. But yeah, every other like version of Deadshot's just like not cool, or like he's you know what he is? He's the same level as cool as like those people that like they'll have like their hair down and they'll be like, I've read every comic book about Deadshot and the Punisher, man. I'm the coolest. I think they're realistic because they have guns. And I'm like, shut up.
It's like this is a world with like Superman and like fucking Bane and all this shit. And of all these characters that you could pick as your favorite, you pick this guy, Deadshot.
The guy that can't miss. You know who also can't miss? Hawkeye or Green Arrow. The only difference is they have a more difficult weapon to use, so they're just innately better.
And Deathstroke.
Who's just cooler in every way.
Who also has a daughter, but also he's like kind of a manipulative asshole. He's like, oh, I have a daughter? Cool. I'm going to turn you into a child soldier. Yeah. I'm going to take advantage of your psychic power. Okay, granted, it depends on what depiction of Deathstroke, but yeah.
Speaking of Deathstroke, dude, this Arkham Origins trailer with him, that CGI trailer, fucking dope.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
Fucking dope.
That was really...
Just in general, just a quick aside, the CGI trailers for all of these games, fucking dope.
You know, fantastic. I will say, though...
If you get a second, go watch them.
Yeah, because the other one has, like... Is it... Which one is it? I think it's Night, where it's, like... It's Thomas Wayne talking to him, just, like... Don't spend your money on,
Thomas Wayne's will, yeah.
Yeah, and it's, like, don't spend your money on, like, cool suits, and it shows him putting the bat suit on and fancy cars, and he loads up the Batmobile, like, that's kind of sick. But yeah, I think Randy's right.
That CG trailer is great.
I think my favorite CG trailer might actually be Origins. That fight's cool. And it actually does have a dynamic where it's like, oh, Deadshot's in it, but he's a side character, as he should be. But Deathstroke's the main, like, threat here.
Person you're fighting. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That trailer is so good. I agree. That one might be my favorite. I do like the Arkham Knight one just because, like, I don't know. I will freely admit to this. It gets me a little emotional, like hearing Thomas Wayne, because he's like talking to his like how much he loves his son, and he just like, you know, you treat the city well, and it will like treat you well it'll treat you well as well. You know, I can't do the actual monologue justice.
Treat the city well. Beat up the homeless. Good job, son. I'm proud of you. Just like the upper class always wanted.
Yeah, but. God, I love that trailer too. I love the Arkham Knight trailer, the reveal, because that's it. I thought it was very like emotionally touching in a way, especially since for obvious reasons, you know, we don't really get to see necessarily much of like Thomas or Martha in their relationship with Bruce.
Yeah, I feel like we haven't actually talked about Origins of the game a lot.
I would say no.
No, we haven't.
I feel like we've been building it up.
We were just building it up. If we just talk about this, we were building anything up. No. Okay. The actual game itself, it's fine. I think it's
fine. I do like that the combat, instead of feeling kind of how we went from Asylum to City, it felt smoother. It's a more experienced Batman. or whatnot. Even though Seth was saying it takes place maybe 6 months after, but in this one it feels chunkier, it feels weightier. You're a bit slower. I remember even after all my time on City, going to Asylum, or not going to Asylum, all my time on City, and then going to Origins after.
Oh,
I
you
had to
thought it was intentional.
Oh, was it not? Oh
I-
no.
No.
So
Let
here's-
let
I thought it was
Randy cook. I want to hear
intentional
this. I want to hear
Oh,
it.
yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah.
I thought
but
it was
Randy,
I thought it was intentional because it's supposed to be like he's supposed to be more brutal in this, which I think you can also tell also in his line deliveries and whatnot, which and some of the actions that Batman has. And also, I mean, it just feels, in my opinion at least, the combat, it felt meatier and chunkier, a bit slower and weightier in comparison to how quick and acrobatic he is in the other ones. I thought that was done on purpose. I remember seeing that in an interview somewhere, but like
Really?
promotional thing
Okay.
before the game came out. Was like, yeah, like
I can see it.
the combat's gonna feel a little different. It's gonna feel, you know, he's a bit more ferocious. I think it's something they use, something of that ilk.
Mhm.
So I kind of I like that it was different. I hope it was
Okay.
on
Right,
purpose.
I would say, yeah. Now, Seth, you are rebuked because now I want to hear what you were about to say.
So I was about to be like, one of the only real issues I have with this game is the combat felt very clunky, and I didn't think it was on purpose at all. I thought it was just like another studio took a stab at it, and they just couldn't nail quite the right game feel that you get with like the other Arkham games made by Rocksteady. Like that's truly what I thought. If it's true that they decided to make it clunky, I could see that argument. It still doesn't change the fact that like if this is set in the Arkham universe, it still just doesn't feel as good as the other games. But I think Randy makes a good point there. I think there are ways they make up for it with the combat, though. Mostly the shot gloves. I'm going to be honest; it's the shot gloves. They really do any sort of clunkiness. They make up for it because the shot gloves, once you get them, which is fairly early on, actually, it turns the game into easy mode, which I don't mind honestly. Fun fact about like the shot gloves: they do actually return again in the Arkham games. They actually return in Arkham City, but only in the Wii U version of it.
Yeah.
When they re-released it, I feel like since we don't have Robert with us, I will be the Robert stand-in this time. It's like yes, the Wii U version of Arkham City does have Batman with shot gloves. They also had it to where you could carry around the Wii U pad and scan around crime scenes to decipher what happened and shit like that in City, which is interesting.
That's cool. That's cool. That's the second game I've heard of in like a recent time that were like for whatever reason the Wii U version just has like more features. Because that's the other like technically with I think it's Tekken 6. Yeah, Tekken 6 is the official version that people play on is the Wii U version for the sole reason of it's like it came when it released it was the most up to date. And also, it came with Nintendo costumes for all the characters. And so people are like, those are
fun.
sick. Now this is our official version. The Wii U version. That is a very side note. That ain't got nothing to do with anything. But yeah, that's cool. I didn't know that. I didn't know the Wii U of Arkham City was different.
No, it was. I think that they also did the same with like Deus Ex and Mass Effect 3. That's also a weird one. I think the only Mass Effect game to ever be released on a Nintendo console was Mass Effect 3 on the Wii U, which is wild.
Yeah.
Anyways, but yeah, like the combat, I would say I didn't hate it. Like it just to me, I was just like, okay, it doesn't feel as refined as the other Arkham games, but Randy makes a good point. Who knows? It could have been intentional by the developers. I personally have not seen this interview, but I mean, if their idea was, if they were like, let's intentionally make the combat feel a bit more shit, they did a good job of it, I guess. They accomplished that goal. But in all seriousness, I want to talk about the performances a bit because obviously Mark Hamill and Kevin are not in this. They said opt for younger actors. Younger actors? Yeah, I guess they're younger. So for Batman, it's Roger Craig Smith. You probably know him as Sonic or Ezio. And for Joker, they have Troy Baker, which he's done literally everything. He's like Nolan North. So like I think their performances were pretty good. I think they definitely, because they wanted to make Roger Craig Smith, if they wanted to make this version of Batman more younger, a bit more aggressive and stuff like that. They do a good job with that. The dude straight up just growls at people in this game, which is fun. But I will say the thing that I think that helps Arkham Origins work is it is so much about Bruce and Alfred's relationship, I think. Because now Alfred has, he's been kind of like present in like some of the other games, I think, but actually no. Hold on.
I think he's only in like the phone calls. I don't know if you ever physically see him anywhere else.
Yeah, like he's in like the phone calls, but a lot of times when Batman's talking with the mission, sometimes he talks to Alfred for like for example, the start of Arkham City, he's like, "Hey, I need my suit," and then Alfred's like, "I got you, fam," and he uses the Batwing to drop it into the city. But really, most of the time, you're talking with Oracle about like story stuff. So yeah, Alfred kind of like it's really just Bruce and Alfred, and like it's very early on, and you can kind of tell what their relationship is. Like, although Alfred's helping him, he's kind of like, "Hey, I think you maybe shouldn't be doing this Batman stuff, but I'll support you anyways." Their relationship is actually pretty damn good in this game. I quite like it. The scene where quote unquote Alfred dies is really well done, in my opinion. Obviously, since he appears in the other games, Alfred doesn't actually die here. But I think like the scene, like the panic when Batman realizes Wayne Manor is being attacked, and he finds Alfred and like he's dead, and like he's kind of like sort of breaking down a bit. I think it's so well done. But then after Batman uses the shot gloves to revive him, that's another thing. These shot gloves are not only powerful for combat, they're powerful for story. We'll have to get into this later, but like literally allows Batman to like revive people from the dead. He does it more than once in this game. He revives Alfred, but they have like a really good conversation where Batman kind of is like, he's kind of like, maybe you're right. Like, maybe I shouldn't do this. And Alfred, I can't, but once again, I'm not going to do these monologues justice, but Alfred kind of explains to him, it's like, no, you're learning the wrong lesson there. It's like, it's not that you shouldn't be Batman, but it's that you shouldn't be Batman alone. You need to rely on your allies. And it's like, it's him like learning to confide not just in Alfred, but also at this time in the games, Captain James Gordon, which is really cool. I think like a good lesson to learn here with like Batman and like how he kind of grows. So I don't know. What do you guys think about like kind of like the performances?
I think
honestly, Go ahead.
Okay. I was going to say, I do like that you actually, in this one, like... Because Alfred is in the others, obviously. Batman talks to him. But this is the only time where I think you really get, like, their connection. And I've always loved the Alfred-Batman connection of just, like... This is really, essentially, Batman's, like, father figure. And, like, Alfred's always... Even in comics and most media, he like, I don't like you doing this because you're out and you're hurting yourself, but I'm going to support you because I love you and I want you to be okay and you need someone to look after you. And I've always kind of like, and I've just liked that dynamic, and I like that we've seen it in game form. I think it would have been, I also think these actors kind of have the impossible task of going up against Kevin and Mark, because naturally our brains are always going to compare the two, but I feel like on their own I think they do a decent job. I think everyone here does well with the performances they're given. I think it only seems lackluster to us because it's surrounded by literally legends of voice actors, like literally some of the best in the business, and that's not discredit to what's the guy that is in this, that is Batman in this.
Roger Craig Smith.
Roger Craig Smith. That's not a discredit to him either. He is one of the best. He's really good, but he's going up against arguably the best. So like,
yeah, he's going up against what people consider the voice of Batman.
Yeah. So I don't think he does bad. I just think he was kind of given an impossible task, and he was doing literally.
I still think he does a really good job. Like both him and Troy Baker as Joker, I think like do a really good job.
Oh yeah, the Joker reveal in this is I've always been a little conflicted about like the very insistent use of Joker, where especially since Origins at first feels like oh cool, we're gonna get a Batman story that doesn't have to rely on Joker, and then literally it's not even like a third of the game in. It's like, just kidding, Black Mask is actually a little bitch tied up in like a basement. It's actually Joker. It's been Joker the whole time. I'm like, fuck, we can never escape you. But Troy Baker does a great job as like Joker, in my opinion. I think it helps too that like he does a convincing job of this being like a younger Joker. He feels a little bit more psychotic, I guess. I'm thinking about the scene where he has like all the assassins and finally the mask is off. It is just Joker, and he's just like joking around. He's like, ooh, I wonder what presents I'm going to open up. What about this? He opens it up. It's a detonator inside. He hits it and blows up a building, and he's like cackling. I'm like, hey, he does a really good job of it. He does a solid job as Joker here.
Yeah. I agree. He's a bit more wild, a bit more like unpredictable. I just think it's unfortunate that like there's the obvious comparison, and there never was going to be any kind of like comparison. But I think on their own, if you just look at the performances by themselves and don't try to compare them to the other games, it's good, it's entertaining, and I think they still get the characters across, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah. Funnily enough, I think one of the surprise standout characters, because I'll be honest, the way I kind of read it is like, okay, this is practically a completely different character at this point, is Origin's depiction of Bane. I definitely think because Origins came out in 2013, so about a year after Dark Knight Rises, they were like, we're going to have smart Bane in this game, because Dark Knight Rises had smart Bane in that. So you get this version of Bane, which it's kind of a nutty twist. Basically, Bane, it's never clarified exactly why, but he has a really big hate boner against like Batman in this game for some sort of undisclosed incident. And apparently Bane just figures out, like, within just a few days of being in the city, he's like, oh yeah, Bruce Wayne is Batman. He just figures that out. Yeah. And he's the one that kills Alfred and all that. What did you guys think? Because I like Smart Bane for the most part. I thought it was an interesting take on him.
There's been versions of Smart Bane. In fact, that's like technically the comic accurate version is Intelligent Bane. I think a lot of mediums depict him as big dumb lughead because he's large. And that's it. And he has a luchador
even
mask
the
on.
Arkham games themselves, like Asylum and City, kind of treat him sort of like that. Not full on like an idiot, but like not this smart.
No. And I think the idea is that like the more venom he takes, it kind of like hampers his intelligence. I kind of always have a soft spot for Intelligent Bane. Like I kind of like him not like breaking the. I feel like it's a bit of a stereotype, him just being like, ooh, I must break you, like that type stuff, like him talking like that. And it was like, no, I feel like because Bane's whole thing is like, yeah, he's a literal born criminal. He was born in prison. And I feel like it's just kind of like, I like the version of him that is more intelligent and that can kind of fight Batman on that. Mainly just because I feel like there's more character there versus just like punching Son. A lot of that...
Basically, you like a version of Bane. I'll make this quick. You like a version of Bane that can not only break Batman physically, but also in spirit as well.
Yeah, because I feel like that's more the way to do it. Because like Batman's whole thing is like, oh, I'm a symbol as much as a man, and I'm like, no, well, if you have to bring a character out to challenge that and to break it, as he says, then yeah, you have to break more than his back, which is I think another reason like even the, and I feel like this version of Bane. This was after the Dark Knight trilogy, correct?
Yeah,
and like Tom Hardy's
Dark
Bane.
Knight Rises wrapped up in. Yeah, Dark Knight Rises wrapped up in 2012, and Origins came out in I think 2013 or 2014.
Yeah, so I think a lot of it was like because I think Dark Knight also kind of brought forward this like, no, there's this like version of Bane where, yeah, he can break him spiritually and psychologically, and to me that's more interesting. It always will be, of just someone that is just, I get in your head and just fuck you, fuck everything you stand for, and fuck your back. And that's me, and I can keep up with you not only in brains but in bronze. So I like this like Origins version of Bane probably more than like City and like the other versions that like, or wait, he wasn't in City. I mean Asylum, right?
No, he is as a side quest though. As a side quest,
yeah, just for a minute.
Yeah, but I like this version where he's a bit more like, it feels like more a complete character.
That's
and
fair.
You can always argue that like, oh, the use of Venom lowers his intelligence over the years, which is why he's not as intellectual in later games. I don't know if they ever say that or not, but that's always just kind of been my headcanon.
Oh no, it is fully. I imagine I'll talk about this when we get to like the specific boss fights themselves. But that is the reason why Bane doesn't remember Batman's identity is because if you remember towards the end of the game for the final fight, Bane takes like a experimental version of the Venom serum, which I think is supposed to be the predecessor to Titan.
Yeah.
In Asylum.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
And he, and basically after that fight, it pretty much lays out that like, oh yeah, because he did that, it damages Bane's brain, and he doesn't remember that Bruce is Batman.
Yeah. Which is fine.
Which is very convenient.
Yeah, it's a little convenient, but I'm like, it's fine. They have to do something to like reset it. Origins, I feel like its biggest flaw, other than being made by WB Games and not the main publishers, is the fact that it's a prequel where there's already been 2 games before it, so it's very constricted in what it can and cannot do. Like, you can't actually kill Alfred. You can't do anything like that. You've already used majority of Batman's rogues galleries, at least the interesting ones. So it's like, what? Like, you can't really do too much with him without, like having to kind of reset everything by the end. I think I think it limits it.
They do a good job with what they have.
Yeah, I think it does. I only think it does. So... we've been on Origins for a minute. And yeah. I think ultimately it probably should go there. But I'm going to put it there.
Hold on.
What's up?
We're not done talking about Origins because we didn't talk about the big main thing. The boss fights. We talked about characters, but we didn't talk about any of the boss fights.
Well, we've been doing characters for a while and I got distracted. Okay, sure. Yeah, let's talk about the boss fights. Yeah.
Randy, since you haven't been able to talk, what's your favorite boss fight in Arkham Origins?
In Origins, I really enjoyed the Deathstroke fight, honestly. I mean, I think, like, I don't know, the Copperhead one isn't that bad from what I remember. Now, albeit I have only played through this game once, in comparison to City, where I played through it like 6 or 7 times. So, but I remember at least in the Deathstroke fight, I think it was one of the first encounters where you actually had to have a. Well, no, they did it in City in the Ra's al Ghul fight, or Ra's al Ghul. Where you had to have multiple counters back to back to back, without being able to like do damage in between.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And from what I remember of like the Copperhead fight, that's where they had a bunch of clones, right? Or like illusions.
Yeah, basically Batman is like poisoned, and it's calling it a boss fight isn't quite correct because it's basically a big group fight with a bunch of clones of like Copperhead. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, like I remember like I remember when I was just searching real quickly on here. I forgot that there's a Mr. Freeze fight, isn't there?
In the DLC, yes.
Oh, in the DLC. Okay.
Yeah, and it's practically like identical to the City fight.
Oh, okay. I didn't play the DLC for Origins, so.
Same, I didn't either.
But I mean, the only one I really can speak to is the Deathstroke one. The other ones I honestly don't really remember. Just maybe a bit of a shame if the game was kind of built on, hey, this is you have all these assassins coming after you, so you should have a bunch of boss fights. But to be honest, the only one I remember is the Deathstroke one.
The Deathstroke is a standout. I do remember like this was one of my favorite boss fights too. I think it's because it's one of the few really well done boss fights where you do have a really good like it's just a good old one-on-one fight between Batman and this other character, and you do get the sense of the back and forth of like Batman lands in punches, then Deathstroke responds with like his own attacks and stuff. I do like how when they start to transition between different phases of the fight, they do the thing where like Deathstroke throws down like a smoke bomb, jumps away, and then he just jumps at Batman, and then it's just like counter all of his like sword strikes. It's like it's basically you're just mashing Y, but it's such a fun, cool moment of like that fight. I also just generally like sure, you can attack on Deathstroke, but you got to be ready that like if you go like too aggressive with it, he will just fall with a counter, and you got to kind of anticipate that.
Yeah.
So funny thing, when I was much younger and when it came out, I really enjoyed Origins to the point where I did end up replaying it on I Am the Night mode. I Am the Night mode is not New Game Plus. It is New Game. It is a mode. It is the hardest difficulty of the game, which includes them removing the counter symbols. So you just have to basically watch the characters and know what to look out for.
That's actually kind of cool.
And it's also, and I Am the Night mode is a permadeath mode. So if you die, you start all over. So it made every single one of these boss fights intense, especially Deathstroke. Because Deathstroke was the one that kind of like on I Am the Night mode without the counter symbol, it really humbles you. It's like, okay, I actually got to like read his body language and know when he's about to like follow up. But
I
like
remember in City playing through, City had a mode to where it removes I think it's their New Game Plus in City, it removes the counter symbol. And like, I remember fighting the League of Assassins in that, and that could be difficult. I like just thinking back to that Deathstroke fight. Yeah, that could definitely humble you real quick.
It's so cool though. I think just it's funny because like Deathstroke is on I guess he is on the cover because it's like all the villains are. He was such a big part of the marketing. He's not actually present that much in the game except for that first fight with Batman. But man, he just makes an impression. It's such a cool fight. I really like the Deathstroke fight. I think in my personal opinion, like if Mr. Freeze was the best stealth boss fight in the Batman Arkham games, than the just straight up boss fights, I think Deathstroke might be one of the best. Trying to think of like where I can go from here with this. I don't know. Before I mention any other boss fights, Drew, what did you think of like the Deathstroke fight?
I remember because I think my first thought was like playing through the game, like, oh, we're already doing. Because my thought is like, oh, Deathstroke's in all the marketing. I'm thinking he's gonna be the last fight. And then when you actually do fight him, as I just mentioned, he's not the main guy, like the main villain. But I still think, like, honestly, you probably could have reworked him, and he would have worked just as well as the last boss. I really enjoyed it. It's been so long since I played Origins. I don't know if I remember a lot of the others.
That's fair.
But I will enjoy it, and I think it's the equivalent to, like, if Mr. Freeze is the best boss fight when it comes to, like, stealthing around a boss, I think this probably takes the case of, like, physically, like, actually combat-wise, like, the biggest challenge. And, like, the most kind of fun it is just, like, straight punching back and forth. In terms of visuals, though, one I forgot to mention would probably be Scarecrow. So I agree, like, Deathstroke is probably the best boss fight in Origins, though.
I have to agree with that. And the other boss fight I wanted to bring up is both of Bane's boss fights in this game, because you fight him twice. The first time you fight him, it's basically you're fighting this big dude, and it's kind of neat because you basically have to like sort of rip out the venom like tubes on him. Yeah, to sort of weaken him and really lay down the damage. You have to do it for both fights. However, the first time you fight him, the presentation on it is fantastic. You guys may not remember this, but what happens is basically Bane does not take any Batman's shit. In the cutscene, he just goes into the elevator. He's like, huh. And then just rips Batman out of the ceiling and throws him out onto the fucking terrace to beat the shit out of him. So here's what's cool that I think was awesome that they did in Origins. Batman is fighting Bane and all his goons. It would be a pretty standard, neat boss fight by itself. But what they do is instead of you playing in the typical camera perspective, it goes to a newscopter watching them fight. So you're watching from the perspective of the newscopter, and they're like fighting. And whenever I was younger and doing that boss fight, I was like, oh, this is cool. Mechanically wise, it's not all that special, but watching it from that format was like badass. And you have like the newscaster like kind of commenting on the fight. I'm like, this is fucking cool.
I forgot about
Holy
that.
Sometimes,
That was
like,
cool.
sometimes even the littlest bit of like change can really leave a very big impression that I think maybe more game developers need to add into their boss design or whatever it might be.
Yeah, like it, like I said, like if it wasn't for that camera change, I'm not sure if I would have remembered that first boss fight much. But because they do it in that format, I'm like, okay, this is actually really fucking cool. So there's that. That's the first fight. Then in the second fight, I have to do a little bit of setup with this. Joker is starting to become infatuated with Batman. He's like, oh, he has this no-kill rule. He sets up this convoluted thing where it's just like, I have set up a heart monitor on Bane, and I have Gordon hostage, and now I'm gonna strap myself to an electric chair. Either you kill Bane, and I live, and I let Gordon live, or I die, and I guess I'll kill Gordon with me. I don't know. But basically, he's forcing Batman into a choice where it's like, you have to kill Bane, or I'm gonna die, and so is like Gordon. So the typical boss fight plays out practically the same way as it was with the rooftop fight. Batman defeats Bane. He does, and like I said, these shock gloves are OP. Not only do they bring Alfred back, Batman uses the shock gloves to first kill Bane, in quotes. He stops his heart. Yeah. Then he uses the shock gloves again to revive Bane after Joker leaves.
Interesting.
Man, bro. He honestly, Batman should hold on to those gloves, man. Like,
bro, those gloves are
do you imagine?
Awesome, yeah.
Like, you remember how many times where it's like Raish is like, like in Arkham City, he's like, if it were to get past me, you'll have to kill me. And Batman's like, no, I don't want to kill you. Blah blah blah. It's like, just use the shot gloves, bro. Then you could kill him and then revive him back. You've done it so many times now. But so basically, he revives Bane. Bane gets mad. He takes the Titan serum and he starts doing the Hulk out. This is when they start to do the they start to do the stealth boss fight again, but this time it's with Bane rather than Mr. Freeze, where you're like in a hall, where you're in like these like jail cells in this hallway, and you're having to take down Bane. And basically, Alfred's in your ear. It's like, hey, basically, there's a timer on Bane where as the fight goes on, he's getting more aggressive and more powerful to the point where he can one-shot you, essentially. Mm-hmm. Where, like, I think if Bane hits critical mass, if he spots you and grabs you, you're done. There's no walking out of that. I bring this up because when I played I Am the Night mode, and I got to this boss fight, I was trying to be very careful, and unfortunately Bane get to critical mass. And then there was one part where I did fuck up, and he grabbed me, and this is right at the end of the I Am the Night playthrough. I tell you what, I did not dashboard as quickly in any game in my life as that moment. And I was like, oh shit. So I quit out of the whole game. I shut it all down, hoping to save my save file. And it worked. It actually worked. I'm not going to lie. I cheated my way to get the I Am the Night mode achievement in Arkham Origins. Bane had my ass. He had it dead to rights.
He was going to get you.
Yeah. I like that. It's not as good as the Mr. Freeze boss fight, but I do like the timer element because it adds pressure to the player to like not take so long on like trying to get the perfect opportunity. And it's just like, hey, if Bane hulks out all the way, it's bad for you. It also kind of feels like almost like a horror game moment where you have like this unstoppable like force that's like constantly like tracking you down, and you have to like deal with that. It's a really solid boss fight. I really like the second phase of Bane's fight. Like I said, not as good as Mr. Freeze, but it's neat that they have ways of adding pressure to the player.
No, that's cool. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what else I want to add. That's a cool moment, and I'm kind of glad that like it was Bane, like. Even though like it wasn't in the market years, but it was Bane that was kind of like the big bad in this. I think he's done well in this. I think his boss fight like is engaging both like in story and in gameplay wise. Also, I didn't realize this until like Seth was describing to him like, oh yeah, this whole scenario that like Joker set up is literally just like The Choice, which is a Daredevil comic, except instead of Joker, it's the Punisher. And instead of like people he knows, it's just it's a random criminal. But it's a very similar like scenario. I'm just like, oh yeah, it's that. But that's cool.
But more convoluted.
But yeah, a ton more convoluted. Like the choice is literally just like it's the Punisher with a gun, and he duct tapes one to Daredevil's hand. That's cool. I think Origins is like a really good game. I think it gets overshadowed and kind of hate on a little too much because it's a bit more clunky and it's not like the main one, and it's a bit different from the rest. But I think it's like, I think in this conversation I've been like, I should replay this game. I have not played this game in a while, and I should go back and like kind of give it another like fair shot at some point. So yeah, I put it up in third earlier, and I'm gonna leave it right there. I'm not gonna. We might move it later, but I'm gonna leave it right there.
Yeah, it's. I will say this much: although it might be, I'm still debating it. It might be my least favorite of the Arkham series. I do think there are elements to Origins that does make it kind of like that makes it work. That does make it like stand out. The issue is just that like it was the follow up to City, you know. A lot of the changes that it did make from City were not all that substantial, and its story just didn't have as many great surprises as like Cities did. And also, like, one of the sad things is, like, yeah, it was made by a different developer. I almost wonder if Arkham Origins would have been received better if it wasn't part of the Arkham verse, if it was just like its own thing.
Yeah.
Um,
If it wasn't called
and I'm not
Arkham
sure.
Origins, if it was just called, it was just a different Batman game. It was just
yeah, like
Batman,
if it was,
Batman Year 2 or something. Yeah.
yeah,
Or
Year 2
didn't
or
have the word Arkham in it.
yeah, just Batman Origins or something along those lines. Yeah, like, but it's not a bad game. I think it's a nice little surprise where I would probably recommend people to. I would still recommend people try out Origins, but if you're really stuck on time and you get through the trilogy, but then you find yourself like, oh man, I really am hungry for more Arkham. Origins is that. It is more Arkham. It's definitely worth a playthrough. It won't set your socks on fire like the other games will, but I think it's worth a shot.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Now for the big one. The big conclusion to everything. Batman Arkham... I didn't mean to put it there already, but I don't think I can put it back. It's fine. Batman Arkham Knight.
We can move it later.
No, we can't. It's stuck there.
Okay.
Oh no.
Nah, I'm joking. This one, I think it's okay. And it's a good game. And it has a lot of like good elements in it, but I think it has a lot of really bad things in it that make it kind of stand out. And I don't think the bad things are enough to like. It's not a bad game, but it's one of those things where it's like compared to such like high caliber of like storytelling and gameplay and everything, it is quite annoying. It does have some good features. I think one of the best features that this game adds is the fact that you can compare like how well it was the first game that had it where you can compare how well you did to your friends. And I think this mode's great for a very specific reason, because the backstory behind this
Everywhere I go, I see his face.
yeah, that meme might be up right now. But yeah, for your viewers that have stuck with this long, fun fact: Randy's better at this game than you. Randy's better at this game than everyone
He's
listening.
not better. He just plays it way too much. Okay, like I bet if I put as many hours into this game, I could also take first place. Okay.
So the
Let's just
reason,
make that clear.
so yeah, Seth is
Make it
mad
happen.
because
Make it happen. Seth. Make it happen.
but you haven't. But so he's
But
better.
you haven't.
So yeah, so the
I
thing is like no
I
matter
haven't even beat
like
Knight.
Seth is a very big completionist, but Randy will dedicate his life to a game whenever he gets a hold on it. So
Yeah,
Randy's
I definitely get hyper fixated on stuff when I
Yeah.
get to it.
So Randy has like all the high scores and everything, and Seth's a very much completionist, so he wants to do everything as well. And so every time he's like, "Dang, I did really good on that race," or "I did really good on that stealth mission," he looks up Dark Drifter, thousands of points above him, and it's just like, how the fuck? And I'm just like, I'm not even. I gave up like at the beginning.
To be like
Randy, the problem is Randy did everything. That's the there's a bunch of AR challenges which I don't know if you even need to do. Randy has done all of them. Like, I don't know why. He's done the flight ones. He's done the racing ones. He's done the fucking every single combat one, which is the only one I really wanted to bother with. And he's done all of them. Like,
I think
literally every single one of them. His name is on the top.
I think the only thing that I didn't do all of is I don't remember if I did all the Predator challenge or not. I remember I was much better at the combat than I was the Predator stuff.
If you missed
In
the
regards
Predator
to the
challenges,
Predator
Randy, I could not find one where you weren't on top. So, like, if you did
Yeah,
miss
but
one,
you
I
can
didn't
say
see
that,
it.
but like how many people on your friends list played the game? For me, it was literally
A
like
lot.
you. Oh, for me, it was literally like you and Robert. None of my other friends played this game.
I have a lot of people on like my friends list, and a lot of them did play Knight. So like there's a lot a lot of people on there. Especially
For me, it
since
was just
Knight,
two other people, so I'm just like, okay. I mean, like, yeah, I'll beat them because
especially
like, haha, I beat you.
especially since Knight will.
Right, it's
I don't know
like
if it's still there,
peasants.
but it was definitely on Game Pass for a while. So like a lot of people have played on my friends list, and even though I do see different names in the leaderboards, I always see Randy's, of course, always on fucking top. I think the only things you haven't done is all the different DLC, like challenge maps. Like that's the only
Maybe
thing.
not. Maybe I didn't have all the DLCs on Xbox. So
Ray, that means you have to go into the DLC. So Seth has 0 wins.
I mean,
0 bitches, 0 wins.
I was about to say, it's just that meme of just like, even though I'm like top leaderboard or whatnot, still no bitches.
Still no bitches. You're gonna make me find that random video of the dude flipping the grilled cheese now?
I'll send it to you.
Okay. I love that dude, but I'm like, it's such a specific one. Anyway, yeah, I'll have to edit like Batman's face on him now. Anyway, yeah, Arkham Knight. I kind of want to, because it's what stands out in my head. I want to point out the negatives of this game first. We'll get to the positives, but I think some of the main negatives of this game is the tank missions, and its main villain, the Arkham Knight himself. To me, those are the big issues with this game, because I didn't really like the tank stuff. I know there are a couple people that did like it, but I think a lot of people really did not mess with the tank missions. And yeah, it's just it's one of those things of just for so long people have been asking to we want to drive the Batmobile, we want to use the Batmobile, and finally in Arkham, all right, we're gonna give it to you in a tank form.
Too much Batmobile.
Too much Batmobile.
Well, you still get you still get the Batmobile.
That is true. You do use it a shit ton, which I remember when it came out. I didn't hate it. I wouldn't even say I disliked it either. I was like, it's fine. Maybe it's I thought it controlled pretty well. Considering the tank stuff I thought was different, because I mean, for the most part, other than driving it around, what were you really gonna do with it? And whatnot. And I mean, this is after the Nolan series of films, so you had the Tumbler Batmobile, which already looked like a tank, not to the point where how this transforms kind of and gets that omnidirectional movement. But I don't know. I think that the Batmobile thing gets overhated, in my opinion.
I could see that. I think it's just the Batmobile. Admittedly, this was also a sticking point for me. I don't think it feels bad. It feels a little bit. It definitely feels weighty, but I think that's because they're going specifically for the feel of something like the Tumbler, like we had seen in the movies, rather than say Keaton's Batman mobile. And it feels very weighty. I also think what kind of helps it make it feel like it can move through the city well is the fact that there's a lot of destructible stuff in it, and not a lot of things can stop the Batmobile once it gets moving. So you basically you run over banisters, you run over stairs and all this junk. Everything just kind of breaks, and it looks cool. I'll give it that much. I do think it's convenient that oh, Batman hit a criminal. Well, they're not dead. They're just tasered because he has these little tasers set up around the Batmobile, and it's yeah, but that's still a 2-ton car running over a guy.
It's a 2-ton car running into him, and then they're electrocuted after. I think they're more dead, if anything. I never understood this logic.
Yeah.
Of no, I hit him.
Yeah.
You shooting a taser at him isn't gonna revive him. You know what it is?
Yeah.
He revived 2 people with the shot gloves in Origin. He's oh, electricity is just life juice. It's like the Fortnite slurp juice. It'll just heal him right up. He's fine. Okay. Again, at the end, he goes back to Joker's grave. It was here you go, Joker, I got you. He just starts
goes back to his parents' grave and just shocks them back to life. It's you're good now.
Oracle, I figured out a way to fix your paralyzed spine.
Electrocute surf, Jesus.
No.
But but so, oh Jesus Christ, I don't know how to go from there. So yeah, the Batmobile, it's fine. I think like that's the thing is like I've only felt like it was fine. Spectacally, it looks cool, even when you're in like the tank form. But like that was another thing. It's just like you all fight like these drone tanks and like unmanned vehicles, so it kind of helps explains like why it's okay for Batman to now use high explosives against these. Like, oh, there's no people in there, and all I could think about is like, man, if the Arkham Knight was smart, he'd be like, yeah, put people in the tanks. Batman will have to work even harder to like disable those without like outright blowing them up now. But whatever. I think the real issue though with like the Batmobile, despite all the other stuff that we just mentioned, the real problem with the Batmobile is I think the game already has a way more fun movement mechanic, and that's the gliding with like the zip line and then like into gliding. That's just more fun and maneuverable to use than the Batmobile, in my opinion. To be able to like glide around Gotham than to use the Batmobile. So they have to figure out ways to justify how you're going to use it. So there'll be specific missions with like streetcar chases and tank battles and God, the Riddler fucking making whole puzzles built around the Batmobile. And he even made these really elaborate racetracks for Batman to race on. The fucking Riddler. Okay. So it feels like it was a problem. Basically, what it is this. The problem was traversal. They already solved that with Arkham City with the gliding. So they're like, okay, well, everybody likes to glide. We have to give reasons for the player to use the Batmobile, and that's what they came up with was this was like these challenges, was these Riddler puzzles, the constant tank fights, and I do think it does get a little overblown, but not too much. I think, unfortunately, there are a lot of sequences where you're just having to use the Batmobile a lot. And I would rather be gliding.
Yeah. It's just...
Yeah,
it's also just
I guess
cooler
I could see that.
gliding around, yeah. Sorry,
I agree. Like, I agree they end up using it too much, but I don't know. I remember at the time it didn't bug me any. I think just because I was so excited with the to even use it at all, because I mean that was something ever since literally Asylum. They were like, people were like, oh, when do we get to drive the Batmobile? When do we get to drive the Batmobile? And they've been saying it since Asylum, basically. And I mean, I wouldn't say I was super on that list, but I don't know. Just it feels overhated in my opinion. Like I think the tank sections were fun because they give.
Car. No, I'm joking.
I think the tank sections, in regards, I guess I could see the puzzles. Yeah, some of the puzzles could have been done with like not needing the Batmobile. Reduce the number of puzzles used, but in regards to the tank stuff. Actual fighting. I thought it was something different to do with the Batmobile in comparison to just driving it around. Because like you said, it's more fun to kind of just glide around anyway.
Yeah. It's... I don't know. I think ultimately like that is the biggest issue of just like it's used too much. So I think like the more you use it, the more you get tired of it. And I think like when people get tired or they just start hating it more and more and it just builds up. So yeah, I think ultimately the best answer is just like stop, like take out the puzzles and like I feel like you could take out
or not even take them all out, just take maybe 10% of the puzzles out that were Batmobile and we rework them to where they're not with the Batmobile.
Yeah.
And I think it would have been a lot more, like, people would be able to stomach it a lot better.
Maybe. But yeah, so that's one of the big issues with it. The other one is the whole...
Hold on, there's one more issue with the Batmobile.
Yeah?
The Deathstroke fight.
I don't even remember.
Do you guys remember this?
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
You fight, so, yeah, you fight the Arkham Knight in it, which, and then yeah, there's a Deathstroke fight in it, which I don't remember exactly how it goes, because I think
So it's like a side quest. You have to do all like the tower liberations, and you have to do all of the like mines that he sets in the Arkham Knight sets in the city to do those tank battles and disable those. Once you do that, then you unlock like the boss fight against Deathstroke, because like Deathstroke is kind of like the Arkham Knight's second in command in this game.
Yeah.
And yeah, the Deathstroke fight is a tank fight, which upsets me greatly.
Yeah. God, I forgot that.
well, I guess they didn't want to do another hand-to-hand fight, because that's what just happened in Origins.
They didn't want to do the best fight
But
in Origins again.
But it was a side quest, and it's just like, oh, come on. And you just make it like a fucking like tank fight. It's just like, because like, yeah, sure, I guess he could drive a tank, but like Deathstroke is known as like a masterclass martial artist that puts him on par with Batman.
Look, all I'm saying
that's
is,
what you
if I
do
was
with
Batman and I also knew how talented in fighting was, I probably would also run him over with a car. But that's me, not Batman, and that's not as fun. But also, yeah, if it was me, I'd run everyone over with the car. Because I don't know how to fight, and I'm not playing a video game. But yeah, you're playing a video game. I want to punch the guy who's the greatest like martial artist, arguably, in Batman's Rogues Gallery. It's the same. It's the same but opposite problem of like Joker turning into a big monster. Of just like, no, it's Joker. I want to beat him intellectually because I'm Batman, and that's his like strongest feat, is that he's smart and crazy and he makes plans. And in this one, it's no, he's really good at fighting. I want to fight him. You know, it's the thing where it's like you want to take on these villains at their best, and there's certain boss fights that don't really like implement that well. That's why the Mr. Freeze boss fight works so well, is because Mr. Freeze's greatest strength is his intelligence. So you have to battle that and be creative in the ways you take him down. And that's why those fights work.
Exactly. And I think like you're not playing to Deathstroke's strengths as like a character for his fight. Nothing about Deathstroke ever indicates, because it's like Deathstroke could absolutely use guns, but like when he fought Batman, he used like the little zip grapple line thingy that like brings two objects together, and like smoke bombs and his quarterstaff and his sword. Like he was a melee fighter. He took on Batman that way. And he also calls Batman like constantly like a warrior. Are you a strong enough warrior to fight me? And it feels weird that like you have this character that's like that in the game, and you're making him a tank fight. Like, I don't know, when I envision a villain as like, are you a strong enough warrior to fight me? I just don't see in a tank.
Yeah.
I don't see World of Tanks as like the warrior battle.
Are you a strong enough warrior to fight me? Probably not, but I got this really big gun.
You also have a really big gun too. It's like, oh, cool. Let's compare sizes.
Yeah.
Nice.
Batman's like, nice cock, Deathstroke. But yeah, sorry, that was my last issue. My real last gripe with the Batmobile is having to use it in the Deathstroke fight. It's like, oh, that's a little disappointing.
No, that's fair. I agree with that. If you're gonna use the Batmobile in any fight, it should be like, I guess like a Firefly, or like someone who's like really mobile, so you're using it to like keep up with them. Or
you do, yeah. In the side
works.
mission,
that's fine. Yeah,
yeah, and it works there. Yeah,
yeah. But yeah, the other big issue with this game is the Arkham Knight and how it's not the Red Hood. Because they really wanted to do Under the Red Hood, which it's a good story, and I think Red Hood's an interesting character, but the entire marketing was like, he's a brand new character. He's totally original. The Arkham Knight, he's Batman's rival. He has this connection with Batman. He's someone totally different. And immediately everyone was like, is it Red Hood? And they're like, probably not. And everyone's like, it's fucking Red Hood. And it was Red Hood. And it's dumb. I don't like it. And then and I think the stupidest moment, the moment that I think really encapsulated, is when he took off the Arkham mask and it was the Red Hood mask underneath. I'm like, why the fuck do you got two helmets on? What is this? It's so.
I'll give it like it's a dope scene, but yeah, I think this story, especially with this being the kind of conclusion of like the Arkham story, has some flaws, and I think a lot of it does kind of come down to like Jason Todd and the Arkham Knight. I'm cool with it being the Arkham Knight progressing to Red Hood. I think honestly they should have just not said anything. Like even when people were catching on that, like pretty early on, that like it's going to be Red Hood, they should have just not acknowledged it. I think that would have been way better than trying to like get out ahead of it and say like, oh, he's a completely new character. It's like, you guys, like, I feel like it would have been received a lot better if they just would have just shut their mouths basically, instead of setting expectations that they knew they couldn't meet. I'm conflicted. On one hand, I do feel like Red Hood is a good character, and I think it's a good way of challenging Batman's morals. And I feel like it is a good way to like a good villain to have for like the last in this Arkham trilogy. My problem is that it feels like the game has to retcon a lot of details to make it possible. Because apparently in this version of the Red Hood story, Jason Todd was kidnapped by Joker, tortured for a year inside of Arkham Asylum, and then basically recorded and sent a video to Batman of him killing Jason Todd. Obviously, that turns out to be false. So this is where it gets weird. Apparently, when you watch the start to Arkham Asylum, yeah, there's that tension between Batman and Joker. But this does not. The way Batman treats Joker does not feel like post Jason Todd death.
No.
I feel like he would have been even more aggressive than this. Especially since canonically in Arkham Asylum, it's only been a year or so after he's received that video. I feel like Batman would still be very like, he's already aggressive against Joker. I think he would have been way worse at the start of Arkham Asylum.
It would have been straight like, he would have came into Arkham Asylum with like an arm bent the wrong way and like his nose upside down because he beat the shit out of him.
Yeah, like he would have been way more brutalized, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because I think that wound would still be fresh with him. The Fresh podcast is the only thing that's fresh. It's also the death of your ward. Anyways. Sorry, I don't know why I did that. Anyways.
What a way to sponsor the podcast. Oh wow. Holy shit. That caught me off guard. I was not expecting that. I was like, what kind of joke is he making? Jeez. That's fun. I'm sorry.
Anyways, that was horrible. Anyways, another weird thing is apparently during the events of Asylum, Jason Todd is still at Arkham. Apparently, according to like the prequel comics going up into Arkham Knight, Jason Todd during the Asylum's riot during that game, he is basically Jason Todd with the help of Deathstroke breaks out of the asylum, which is, like I said, it's weird. It's like, so Batman just didn't catch that while everything else was going on. Oracle didn't catch that. Like, wait, what? Like, this whole other thing happened that Batman was at the asylum and like, oh, like he just happened to be there and Jason Todd was also there. It's like, okay, that's to me, that's weird that like that wasn't caught on.
Yeah.
The point I'm trying to get to is it feels like they did not plan to have Jason Todd in this series at all until Arkham Knight. And they had to retroactively make things work to make it happen. And it's like, I'm cool with Red Hood, but it felt like there should have been more setup for this.
Yeah. We should have, you know, and make it more impactful if at some point, like, and maybe this is just like a huge it doesn't. It's so weird to do it in the Arkham world because the Arkham world is so like tight in its timeline. There's not a lot of wiggle room with like the 3 games. There's not that much time in between. But make Arkham Knight years later, like a few years later, and make it so like I don't even know how you do that because it would have to be in between Asylum and City. He does this, but then like I don't even know if City he's like that aggressive at him. Like and there's not that much time in between there.
And City wouldn't work because you need Joker to be sick, and that's like the immediate aftermath of Asylum.
Yeah, it wouldn't work there. So like it doesn't work doing it, and also because the other thing is like you would
have to change the first game. You would have to change it to make it. Yeah.
And I think because the reason Red Hood resonates with a lot of people is because they knew him as Robin first. They knew him as Jason Todd, the second Robin. But this version of Red Hood is just some fucking dude to us. We're being told that he's important. That's cool, but we never see it because we've met Dick, and we've met who's the current Robin during that timeline.
Tim.
It is Tim.
Tim Drake.
Okay. Yeah, it is Tim Drake.
Yeah.
And
Tim
we
Drake.
meet them, and like you kind of get a connection with them, but like we're just told that like this was a different one, and it's just kind of like I believe you because it's Batman, but I don't know this version of Tim, like every other
Or this version of Jason.
or this version of Jason. Sorry, yeah, I don't know this version of Jason because like I'm just kind of putting the comic book personality onto him. And I guess that's kind of what they want you to do, but you don't actually ever get to resonate with this Robin because you only know him as Red Hood and not the Robin before.
And like they do a lot of smart things too with like some of the especially a lot with Knight as well, where you have interactions with Dick as Nightwing, you have interactions with Tim Drake as Robin, you have interactions with Oracle, who in this was Batgirl. But we've never gotten anything with like Jason Todd beforehand besides these flashbacks. And the flashbacks weirdly are all rooted in just the traumatic last moments of his life, quote unquote, according to Batman. Like we don't ever get there's not even like a flashback to like, oh, this is what Jason Todd was like as Robin or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird that so much of the plot hinges on this, yet it still feels underdeveloped.
And, like also with how annoying it was. So Will was recently, him and I have been going through this game, and he doesn't know jack about Batman. He doesn't know he didn't know who Jason Todd was or anything like that. And so we're going through the game, and it's like, oh, the Arkham Knight, just like Batman's even like, get me a name. Alfred, keep expanding the search and whatnot. And then as soon as we had that first flashback, he just goes, oh, so that's the Arkham Knight. And I'm just like,
it's
like,
kind of
even for someone who has no background knowledge of Jason Todd, as soon as that came up, he's just like, oh, it's that.
It's that guy. It's the only option. What else could it be? Oh, maybe it's Commissioner Gordon in a suit. No, there's no other, like, why make it a mystery,
At least there are other mysteries that do happen in this game that did get him. So, like, he did believe that Barbara Gordon died. And so...
the fear toxin stuff, which is really good. That is a good twist, is, like, what they do with the fear toxin, but, like... But before I want to get into that, I do want to keep kind of the focus on
Jason.
Yeah, because like once again, I think it's Troy Baker who voiced Joker in the last game, and now he's voicing Jason Todd here. I think he does a good job as Jason Todd. I do like him as like the Arkham Knight, and whenever he unveils himself, it doesn't feel like, for example, I think a lot of people who know about Jason Todd might have been exposed to like the animated film Under the Red Hood, where he was voiced by the one dude from Supernatural. I can't think of his name.
Sean something. Or that might
Jensen something.
Yeah.
But he does a great job with it. That one feels like a more mature Jason, Whereas this one feels like a Jason where it's very fresh with everything that's happened, and he feels very unstable. Like when he takes the mask off, he's basically just like fucking just raging at Batman. Not necessarily fighting him yet, but like just screaming at him.
Yeah.
I think he does a good performance. It's just like Drew said, we don't know this character. We don't know this version of Jason like at all. It's like it's like Endgame, where it's like you took everything from me. I don't even know who you are.
I don't even know. Yeah, it's that. It's just like I guess I took everything from you. I'm sorry.
And it's a shame because like I like the Arkham Knight design. I like the idea of using Jason at the end, but you know, it's missing like development. It's missing setup. That's kind of the issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like honestly. Okay. Wait. Who are the companion in City? You meet. Yeah, you meet Nightwing in City, right?
Not Nightwing.
You just meet up with Tim Drake.
Right. Okay.
Tim and Oracle.
You know what? This might be a terrible idea, but what if they wanted to do a twist on the Red Hood? Maybe do the flashbacks, make you think it's Tim Drake, and then at the end, make you think it's Jason. God damn these names. Make you think it's Jason. Make you think, oh, it's the Red Hood, and then make it Tim Drake at the end. Make it the
but like
third
you're already
Robin.
with Tim, like you're already with Tim Drake the entire time anyway.
I mean, yeah, you would have to change up like that part. Yes, I understand. I just more mean like if you want to do the Red Hood story but do it differently, make it so like no, Jason did die and he's dead. Like he's not coming back.
Considering this is fresh, it'd be a little fucked up. But even if there was like a little moment where Batman accidentally calls him Jason.
He does.
Like,
yeah. Wait, does he?
There's at the end of one of the flashbacks, when you're in the movie theater, I think it's the last flashback. He comes up and he's like, Jason. He's like, sorry, Tim. And he's like, haven't done that in a while.
Yeah. Well, there's that, but I'm talking like do that in City.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Have this be like something that's set up. But I don't know. I think it'd be cool. Like, make it so there's another, or even if you don't do it at the end, make it so like in let's say in Arkham Knight, you never see not at least not until the end. You never see Tim and the Arkham Knight in the same room. Like he always like, oh, I'll go chase after. Like they do that kind of thing, and just make it so you know. Maybe make it so like there's another option, or make Batman start thinking it's like, wait, or like maybe have like when Nightwing shows up and like Nightwing is like poking at him, just like, no, your logic is flawed. Make someone come and like poke at him to be like, this is wrong, or like you're doing something terrible, or like yada yada, like you should be more aggressive to these people. Make Batman kind of start questioning his underlings, his people, just like, is it one of you guys? Like, is it one of them? Give us another option. Make us think that you're gonna do something different. You would have to change up a lot, I know, because like you're with those guys like the entire, so there is no reason you would suspect them in that. But like, you see what I'm saying? Like, give me reason to doubt, if that makes sense. You see what
Yeah, I think like since like this is like you don't have to be entirely beholden to like the comics of like how this works. So it's like, yeah, like make them think like, oh, maybe it is possible that like this is not going to be Jason. Maybe it's going to be this version of Red Hood will be like Tim or something like that.
Yeah.
Like kind of, you know, because it's like I said, you're in your own universe.
You can do
you're
whatever
not
you want.
you don't have to be complete. Yeah, you don't have to be completely beholden. So yeah, like it would require refinement, but I definitely get what you're saying.
So, I don't know. That's always been my biggest gripe of this. It's just, it feels like they want to do the Red Hood story because the Red Hood story is cool, but they didn't set it up properly. Like, they wanted to do it just to say that we did it. and that it's my exact same issue with Flashpoint and The Flash. I think every story that does Flashpoint is boring to me now because it's been done in so many different mediums and animated things, now in live actions. We don't have to just copy everything one for one, especially if it's already been done before. I know technically it hasn't been done in games yet, yes, but if it's the exact same story repeated all over, what is there to gain? What's the new thing? What's the point? So that's like my biggest gripe with it. And that is like my biggest gripe with the game.
I feel you on that. Yeah.
So
I do think like out of all the story elements, it's that. Speaking of like other story elements, I feel like we need to address the other thing in the room, which is like we can never escape this man. He's in, and I felt a little conflicted on bringing him back for this game as well.
Oh,
Joker's back.
Yeah,
kind of in this game. What do you guys think of that? Like bringing Joker back from the dead, essentially.
I'll let Randy because I've been talking for a minute. Yeah.
So I remember initially, if I remember initially how I felt, I was fine with it because he wasn't the villain. He was more of there to add commentary and just mess with Batman psychologically, which I thought was fun because it does bring a bit of levity to. Without him, this game would be very serious all the time. And because this is the only game out of this series that's rated M, which I remember initially I was like, oh, when they came out as rated M, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be like really cool and like I don't know, like
it's gonna be tits and ass, like yeah.
Sure.
I'm gonna see Batman's penis.
I mean, with
with
like that one comic. Anyway, but
it's like we're gonna.
you just threw me.
I'm Rock,
for a loop.
Rocksteady's gonna be like, oh, we're gonna show Batman definitely eats pussy. We're gonna make sure that definitely happens. Sorry,
okay,
Randy.
You were excited that it was rated M.
Hold off. Yes, just because like, cool. This will be the first like rated M like content for, or like mature content I've seen for Batman. Period, because it'd be like a rated R Batman movie in essence, which there isn't. Or well, I think there's some animated ones.
Yeah.
That are, but
joke is
But so I was excited for that, and the fact that you do get a bit of levity having Joker around, just adding commentary and just antagonizing Batman, I think is actually really fun.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I understand how people are kind of sick of the Joker. But in regards to it being played by Mark Hamill and it's Kevin Conroy working together, it feels like it's fine because these are like our definitive versions of Batman and Joker. And it feels like you can't really have one without the other.
Yeah.
And so I was there for it.
So I was initially, I think very similar to you, Rady. I was initially like, I don't know how I feel. It feels like a cop-out. That, okay, you killed him in the last one, and now you're just kind of not bringing it back. It feels like the last game had no consequence. But then you actually like play the game, and you're like, I don't know if it's just me, but I think it's just like you listen to him talk and you listen to him interact. I'm like, no, I love them talking to each other too much. I'm not actually gonna complain. I'm just like, which I don't know is the best answer, but it's just like you listen to him like, no, I'll take whatever excuse they give me for these two to just keep going at each other, and that's all the reason I need. So. That's not a great answer. I know it feels very fan servicey, but I'm a fan and it's serviced. So there's your answer. So I don't have a problem with it. What about you, Seth?
So I think you guys are bringing up like some of the same points I'm going to bring up, but I'll go a little bit more in depth with it. Whenever I saw Joker was back, I was like, man, like this is after Origins, like also, which also was like a game that seemed like at first, hey, it's going to be a Batman game with nothing to do with the Joker, and they figured out a way to bring him back. He was Black Mask the whole time, and here it's like, great, they found another way to bring Joker back. At first, I thought it was lazy writing. It's just like you just gotta go back to the same tree that's borne the same fruit for you, don't you, Rocksteady? But I think it works here. I think one, it's a way of like dealing with how Bruce is still, or Batman is still processing the death of the Joker since the last game. Like one of the DLCs, Harley Quinn's Revenge for Arkham City, which we didn't talk about, kind of showed that Batman has kind of changed since the Joker's death, because it's like kind of left him in like a very weird spot, since he's like, even though he's not really responsible for the Joker's death, it definitely seems like Batman is still holding that weight over him, and now it's like, it's left a really weird like sort of space for him trying to figure out what he's doing with his life now as the Batman. And I think bringing Joker back, one, we have to acknowledge this. It's not really the Joker. It is Batman's subconscious of who the Joker is.
Yeah.
That's what's brought here. And I think it's a way of Batman kind of processing that death. And also, look, the Arkham series began with Batman versus Joker. It's ending with Batman versus Joker. And if anything, like how the story builds up is nice. First, it's like Batman, like it's first off, this is triggered by the fear toxin. It kind of shows Batman's greatest fear is kind of losing himself against the Joker and basically proving the Joker right, that he is just one bad day away from being him. The nightmare sequence where you play as Batman taken over by the Joker and he's just killing everyone is like actually really well done. It is a demonstration that like Bruce's greatest fear is losing himself. And then like there's also that brilliant sequence where you're playing as Joker in Batman's head, and then like all the Batman statues are popping up. It's in first person, like an FPS. I'm like, ooh, this is kind of neat. But like it's a great send off for this series between Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill, kind of like putting a permanent end to the Joker. Because like if you think about it, the way it ends is Batman like going up to Joker mentally and just like imprisoning him and throwing him away. It's like, I am done with you for good. You are dead and gone. And I think that's good. That's a good way to sort of like end out that like arc for him. Could you call it lazy writing? Perhaps, because they don't commit to dealing with like, they don't commit to keeping the Joker dead, but they do keep the Joker dead in this universe. And it's not that they're bringing him back. It's remember this. This isn't about bringing the Joker back to life, because that's not what they've done here. It's about putting Batman's fears of the Joker finally to rest. That is what this is about. And like, this was something I used to mark against Knight, but I think it's one of the things that I actually find Knight is kind of brilliant at, is like how they handle the Joker death here. It was something I hated at first, but I've really come around to it. I'm like, no, I like this. I like how they handle it.
Yeah. I think I'm happy with it. It's the initial... I think we all had the very same initial reaction of just like, oh, they're really doing it, but like, you see it in practice, you see what they're actually doing, and it's just like, yeah, this is what they should have been. Like, this works. It works.
Well, I think like...
Even
like you're saying we all had the same initial reaction to where like I'm thinking in retrospect I was like, oh, okay, but I think my initial reaction, I didn't know he was in it until, because I think I played the game like day one and I was playing it, and then when he pops up, that genuinely scared the piss out of me. That he shows up and I'm just like, holy shit, he's here. And then like I was there for the ride, so I think maybe did you guys know that he was coming back before you played the game?
Kinda.
Or
So
Yeah.
basically, they had already said that like Mark Hamill was coming back, but people assumed it would be like flashback sequences or something like that. Not like this. We
oh,
we kind of knew.
I must have just put my fingers in my ears and went la 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 la. I'm gonna play the game anyway, because like
Mhm.
I I didn't know even he was in it at all when I played.
Hmm.
I must have, like I said, I just must have put fingers in my ear and just went nope, not listening, not
That's probably
listening.
smart. Yeah.
Um, but I was totally there for it. When it happened.
But, and like we knew it was coming, and I do agree that just like it's one of the unfortunate things about like the marketing on this stuff is like they put up like a bunch of articles like, oh, Mark Hamill's coming back, he's good, Joker's going to be back in like Arkham Knight. We don't know what capacity, but he will be, and it's whatever. um so obviously that surprise was ruined, and but I don't think it really hurts it that much though. Like when like looking back on it, like it might have like soured like my initial impressions a little, but like we kind of talked about is we kind of realize now that it's like, oh, this was they knew what they were doing. They knew what they were doing with like the character. Um so yeah.
Yeah. I think ultimately though, I think we're all in agreement of just like it was a ultimately good decision to bring him back and do what they did. I don't think anyone's gonna
If
argue
there's
that too much.
if there is one downside to this is with the main story, because you have the Arkham Knight on one hand, and then you have Joker kind of coming back as this like mental construct for Batman. It kind of takes the spotlight away from technically what is supposed to be the primary villain of this game, and that's Scarecrow.
Oh
Because it's
yeah.
Scarecrow's plan to flood the city with beer toxin, and they even get like a whole new voice actor for him here, which I think is okay because I think they wanted to make a far more creepier and intimidating version of like Scarecrow, almost more philosophical, I guess. But he really gets overshadowed. Technically, the Arkham Knight is Scarecrow's second in command, but so much of the game focuses on the Knight, on Joker, that Scarecrow kind of gets forgotten and overshadowed in this game, where he's technically supposed to be the big mastermind. He's supposed to be the emperor of this game.
Yeah. I forget. Yeah.
So I kind of feel bad,
Yeah.
about that. It's
Because
like, oh
Scarecrow's
man, like
really like
this.
Scarecrow might be one of, if not like my favorite Batman villain. In almost every form of medium, Scarecrow's super cool and super well done. Uh, yeah, he is kind of just like he's supposed to be. This is supposed to be his moment, and he honestly
It,
he's pretty much what feels like the third your third priority because your first is probably Arkham Knight and then Joker and then him, I guess.
Well, the thing is, with Joker, you're not even fighting him.
Yeah, but you're
Yeah,
Like
but
he's more
it's
there
like
for
this.
commentary.
Yeah.
it's his presence throughout the game, and it's like you're so focused on that because like the Joker's still like getting in Batman's head and like messing with him in his own ways. I mean, for God's sakes, like if you think about it, it is this mental construct of Joker that makes him think that Barbara killed himself. Because like if you remember, it shows Joker in the and it's like kind of the first indication like, oh, this is not real, is that like in the cell where Barbara, quote unquote Barbara, is freaking out. It shows Joker move the gun, which he can't do because he's a mental construct. Move the
Yeah.
gun towards Barbara when she shoots herself. Um, like you can still argue Joker is a villain here. He's still like even this mental construct of Joker is still fucking with Batman. It's still trying to take over his body. I would say that he's still an antagonistic force.
Yeah. Definitely. So that is a lot of. I will say, I feel like we've been harking on the negatives about this game, and while I do think the game has problems and the negatives like are definitely big and overshadow, this game isn't like all that. It's not bad by any stretch of the word. It's still like combat's still fun, stealth is still really enjoyable. Like, when you actually get to do it and you're outside the tank. There are a lot of like positives to it. I just feel like when it's in such it has such like a high bar to meet because it is the follow up to City. That's what makes a lot of the negatives stand out way more to like us, but more specifically way more to like most fans.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree. I think it's just, I want to say this. I think one of the hard things about like Arkham Knight is I think it is Rocksteady's most ambitious game of the trilogy that they made. And it's their most ambitious game. It is also their most flawed game because of that, I think. But it doesn't mean it's a bad game. I think there's a lot of neat ideas. I think from a gameplay perspective, this is definitely the best looking and best feeling of all the Batman games.
Agreed. Yeah.
It looks like tremendous, and not to mention, like, although there's not that many big changes and improvements that they bring to the combat and gameplay, the one big new thing they added in that I really like is the fear takedowns. They look so badass, and it is so cool to see Batman just sort of like where you can kind of set these up where these multi takedowns where it's like Batman just like crushes these people and is moving in and just taking out these like bad guys, and it all looks so fluid. Like, I love just like initiating the fear takedown and then it just goes into slow motion, and because there's a lot of weather effects going on, it's like you see the individual droplets coming down and Batman just scans for the next target and then just moves in and just weaves between these characters. Visually it looks amazing. It also ties into something that I forgot we didn't mention with the stealth mechanic. All the way back with Asylum, I love the fact that guards' AI behaviors would change as you take more of them out, where they start freaking out. They're like, hey, we need to stick together. And another guard be like, nah, man, you're on your own. And they start freaking out. They even start pre-firing around corners because Batman is scaring the piss out of them. And I think the fear takedown just helps add to that feeling of like, technically it's like, yeah, the more takedowns you do, the more you charge up the fear takedown. But I like the idea that they call it the fear takedown because it's technically Batman taking advantage of like their emotional states to take them down. It's such a neat thing. I like that a lot.
Yeah, it's a cool.
Definitely.
It's a cool
yeah, I mean, we haven't really touched on the AI, but like the AI in regards to how they react to you taking other members down, and then also just the amount of fun dialogue the criminals have. Just the world feels very alive.
Yeah. Despite
it always being like a city that has like all of its most of the population gone. So,
like for example, the Arkham Knight, like, I know we kind of talked a lot about him, but the way he interacts with his militia because he knows Batman's quote unquote weaknesses. I love the fact that like whenever he like you take like it's almost like mini Mr. Freeze boss fights where it's like you start taking on the militia. It's like, oh, you take them down from a gargoyle. Arkham Knight will get on the comms and be like, he's using like the upper gargoyles, take them out. So they'll start destroying gargoyles, looking for them there. He'll say like, he's in the vents. They'll start looking inside the vents. One of my favorite ones is one of the cool gadgets you get is the voice modulator one, where you basically can order like guards around and be like, over here, like check this out or whatever. Like you're pretending to be the Arkham Knight. And like if you use that like one or two times, the Arkham Knight will be like, he using my comm, switch channels or something like that. It's like, oh, that's fun. So that's cool. There's a lot of neat little interactions and details that they like add to it. Also, I say not many major changes to the combat, but they do added two new things. One, a lot of side missions have you teaming up with like either Catwoman or Nightwing or I almost called him Redwing. Robin. Where basically like you're fighting, you have another person fighting with you, and then you can do like the tag team combos, which also look cool. And then you get to temporarily switch into the other character. I'm like, oh, this is cool. And it feels so fluid, just like flowing in between each of them, like doing these tag team combos. That's really cool. And the environmental takedowns too, where they added in like the fuse boxes, which definitely killed people.
But Batman, that
Yeah.
kills people. No, it doesn't. It's
Oh,
fine.
God.
Do you the searchlight ones might be the worst ones where Batman just picks up a dude and smashes the guy head first into it. It's like if he's not
Dude, he looks
electrocuted
so
to death,
fucking like insane after he's done with it. Like he just looks like a fucking beast, and it's just like, bro, you killed him.
Yeah, it's like he's dead.
dude's dead.
He's dead.
If his neck wasn't crushed, if his spine wasn't crushed when you like head planted him into this light, and assuming the glass didn't like slice up a vital artery or something like that, he would definitely got electrocuted there.
Bro.
Dude's deader than dead.
What are you talking about, Seth? Like we talked about, Batman thinks electricity is just life juice. He's fine. He jump-started his heart by doing it, by shoving his head into the box. He's fine. No,
Dude's-
my favorite one
dude's
of my
okay.
favorite memes of the Arkham world is it's like Batman. It's Batman running up to a criminal, like grabbing them and like 180 throwing and like slamming their body into the ground, and it starts like glitching out. Like he hits him so hard, like the bite, and then Batman just goes, "Now talk." Like it's like you fucking ripped his spine in half. I don't think he's saying anything, big man. It's like. Oh my god.
Yeah, no, but like yeah, like I think this is definitely the best feeling. And like I think the world looks great. It might be just that Unreal like engine magic that's going on with like how good Arkham Knight still looks, even though it came out like 8 years ago now, like 2015.
Yeah, it looks fantastic.
It still looks great. I think just not only that, but just the art design of Gotham has so much character to it. Very clearly drawing like the sort of like Art Deco inspirations from like the animated series and like the use of neon and all this stuff. It looks gorgeous. So I like there's a lot of positives with Night from like in terms of like technical perspective, in terms of like the gameplay itself. It there's good elements tonight that still makes it stand up to this day.
Yeah. No, it's at the end of the day, it's still Arkham. It's still fun. It still has one of the best like combat and stealth mechanics like in any game. It still makes you, say it with me, class, feel like Batman.
Feel like Batman.
There you go.
The Batman.
Good job, class. So it still is really good. It's just like its negatives stand out so much to us because we know the potential that it could be, which is our top two, which is the Arkham City and Arkham Knight. So I put it kind of here as a meme to kind of like make people think, but no, I think Arkham. I would say it's probably third best, but maybe you guys think its negatives like really make it stick down to fourth. Do you guys think Origin should be above this or not?
No. In my opinion, I'm just gonna outright say, and just like in my opinion, no. I think because like Origins has a lot of like neat little ideas, but it doesn't take a lot of risks. Which that's kind of the sad thing about you being like the spin-off prequel is that you just don't have a lot of freedom to take a lot of risks. Yeah, like I said, the biggest problem with Night was it's probably Rocksteady's most ambitious game of all of them, and it's just not all those ideas work together as much as they wanted it to, which is sad. But that's just how it works sometimes with like a project. Is like you have like all these ideas and they don't always come together as fluid as you like. But at least it was trying to do something different and new. And Origins. Not making it like necessarily like a bad game because it was trying to because it's well designed. It's just like I said, it's more Arkham. That's all you can really say about it.
Yeah. So I think it's still good. It's still a good time, but if you want to get like that true Arkham experience, it's these two first games. It's Arkham Asylum into City. But yeah, I think they want to be ambitious, but I feel like the way they tell the story and like kind of the way they built this world up, it almost limited them to what they did, to what they could do. I feel like the only way to do Red Hood properly is to like it would have had to been set up way before this. But ultimately, still a good game and still deserves to be played. Randy, any kind of final closing thoughts about the Batman series?
Get good, Seth, at the combat. That's all I got.
Listen, we've been talking a lot. I feel like I don't know if I've mentioned it here yet, but I've still not beaten Arkham Knight, so I need to get around to that at some point. That's what I need to do first before worrying about the damn leaderboards with Randy. Is I just really need to beat the fucking game.
Yeah,
Randy-
get on my level to like 240% or whatever it is, where you beat it, like you 100% it on standard, then you new game mode plus it, and then you, I think, do all the DLCs. And I think that's the 240% or something like that.
I think just me getting to the base ending will be good enough. I don't know if I need to do the Night Protocol thing. Jesus Christ.
Look, Seth, just know, no matter how much you play the game, no matter how many times you beat the Joker, you will never beat the Arkham game's true final boss, which is Randy. He is the final boss, and he always will be.
Look, I mean,
Just play your easy baby games like Dark Souls or whatever you like.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna say like the true final boss of like the Batman Arkham universe, which is Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League.
Oh, God, that's even
no.
worse.
Hey,
Yeah, you can
I'll let you have that one. You could be at the top of all the leaderboards on that.
Yeah, I would say technically,
I'm good.
That's another thing. Yeah, I know it's not the Arkham universe, but technically, Randy is the leaderboard in the Gotham Knights because he's the only one in our friend group that's actually played it.
I think I've played it twice.
And you that means you have the leader because that's double the amount of times as everyone else. We've done none.
I like that it's on game. I like that it's on Game Pass, and we're good.
Yeah, we're fine.
How about
It would
no?
be maybe one night, like after a few drinks, we all load it up and just be like, "Well, this is ass," and then we're done.
Yeah. Hey, like I said, I'll give him credit for this. Still a better send off for Batman in that game than in the Arkhamverse one.
Yep. All right. Well,
And on that bombshell.
I believe that's about everything for the Arkham games. I'm about to go into fresh picks unless Seth's about to stop me with another speech.
No, I feel like we've covered everything.
Yeah, we got about everything.
Well, no, I will say this. Like,
I knew it.
I kind of brought it up
He
in,
did
like,
have another speech.
Hey, now you mention it, it's like one more thing is like despite its issues and with the Suicide Squad stuff, mentally for me, I'm just gonna basically ignore Suicide Squad because it's like, to me, this is where the Arkham series ends. I don't need Suicide Squad to continue it because in my mind, it doesn't. I think, despite all of its flaws, I think Arkham Knight, just from a story perspective, does a good job of like wrapping up the Batman story where it needs to be. It's vague enough to where you can interpret however you want, and you can just ignore what happens in Suicide Squad. Like I said, I think this is a great trilogy. Really quadrilogy if you want to count Arkham Origins, which I do, and I think, despite some of its issues, especially towards the end, I still think that like it's still one of the best superhero games out there. It's just kind of unmatched. Even with like recent things like with like the Spider-Man series, because I feel like the Spider-Man series is probably the closest to it, and even then, I don't think Spider-Man beats out the Batman games. That's purely my opinion. I think it really comes down to preference. But in my mind's eye, like I feel like just in terms of like the storytelling and characters and atmosphere, I feel like the Batman games are still the king of not just superhero games, but just video games in general. So that's what I want to say. It's just like the Arkham series is still goated. Go play it if you have it.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's fair. All right. And with that said, we're we're going to finish up this podcast. So we finish up all podcasts with giving our fresh picks of the week. This is what we've been playing, watching, or listening to. Well, we're not recording this podcast. So, Randy, you have yours all ready and prepared. What is your fresh pick of the week?
All right, so it's been a little bit since I've been playing it, but I'm gonna try and get back into it here soon. Is Splinter Cell Blacklist. I remember when this game came out on 360, and I hadn't really been super into Splinter Cell at all. Like, I knew the name, but that's it. And I actually didn't get around to playing it until, honestly, like this year. But I remember looking at it and being like, all right, I'm into this. But I don't know, I just must have fallen off my radar at some point for, X, Y, or Z reason. And I'm playing it on PC, which has the unfortunate issue of occasionally crashing. After maybe like 2 hours or so of play. Luckily, the game autosaves very frequently, and you can also manual save if you want as well, and you can very easily kind of boot back up into it. Now, despite all this, if you have a 360 or something, I'm looking right now, you can get a copy of the game for $7 at GameStop. So I would advise you play it on 360, because I bet it doesn't have the crashing issue. But
it doesn't.
Yeah, if you don't, and like you have to play it on PC, then there it exists. You could still go buy it on Steam or whatnot for really cheap. I don't know what it currently goes for, but
it goes on sale pretty frequently. It's an Ubisoft game, so it goes on sale a lot.
But if you're not familiar with what Splinter Cell is, you're pretty much super secret spy man, Sam Fisher, and
secret.
I think the gameplay, it's like, the gameplay wise, I think it's very, it definitely fills out that military spy, fantasy that you would want. As someone who played a lot of like Assassin's Creed growing up, that idea of being like a sneaky assassin and stuff like that got into my brain. I was like, oh, that's so fucking cool, man. And so having it kind of be a extension of that type of game in regards to like action, kind of like an action stealth game, it feeds into that really well. There's also co-op on it, so if you're looking for something to do with a friend, it has split screen co-op. So if you're in college and I don't know, you and your roommates need something to do, boom, there you go.
Okay.
Story-wise, it's honestly, for someone, it's my only Splinter Cell game I've been playing. So when they're like, "Oh, it's this character," I'm like, I don't know who you are.
Sadly, oh god, yeah, that's the sad thing. Oh god, I'm a big Splinter Cell fan, so it kind of hurts me that Blacklist is your first one for a couple of reasons.
It's my first and only one.
Yeah, your first and
until
only one
until Ubisoft makes a Splinter Cell remake. Every year they say, "Up, maybe," and here we are. Still haven't seen anything of it. You can go off about it if you want, because I don't really have much to input on it because I haven't finished it yet. Other than, hey, it's a fun like spy, like military action game, and I think the mechanics of it feel very good in my opinion.
Oh yeah, it's the most modern feeling for sure because it is the last one that they made. Man, Randy, it breaks my heart that the Blacklist is your first one. Not because it's a bad one, but because it mechanically, gameplay wise, yes, it's really good and really well polished because it supports a variety of play styles like non-lethal ghost style and more lethal stealth style and even an assault style if you really want to. And it does a good job. Great animations, good level design, and good gameplay. It also has probably the blandest story out of all the Splinter Cell games, admittedly, which
Oh, I
is
guess it's good
sad.
that I don't give a shit about the story.
Well, it sucks because it's like, yeah, I mean, I could see why, because for all intents and purposes, it does feel like only really a Splinter Cell, at least in terms of story. Gameplay wise, it definitely has the heart of Splinter Cell. But in the terms of like the story, it really only is Splinter Cell like in name only. Because even Sam Fisher, the main character, this voice actor is the only voice actor this is the only time this voice actor voices this character. I can't even think of his name. Michael Ironsides is typically the voice of Sam, which he does an excellent job in every other game. Because, as you probably noted, the Splinter Cell Blacklist is very super serial the whole time, right? Like
Yeah.
it's always like go in, take out the target, yada yada. That weirdly enough, that's not how the most Splinter Cell games tones are. In fact, a lot of the original Splinter Cell games are very humorous in nature because it's basically about a 50, 60-year-old man voiced by Michael Ironsides having to sneak around, and he's very like it's actually surprisingly jokey. Like he'll like grab a guy from in the older games, he'd grab a guy from behind to interrogate him, and he's like, "So you come here often?" or something like that. One of my favorite oh one of my favorite jokes, I can't remember how exactly it goes, but like whenever he's interrogating something, he says like, all right, he just grabs the guard. It's like, all right, I'm going to tell you this. I hate the word. It's not this word, but I'm just going to say it. It's like, I hate the word moist. It's just like moist. It's like, don't say that. I might slip with this knife here. And it's just like, it's the original Splinter Cell games are a little bit more goofy in tone, but it matches it because Sam is so good at his job that he's kind of like, whatever. These youngins don't know what's up. Um, I would really recommend go play Chaos Theory. I think it is the best Splinter Cell game. A lot of them are mostly disconnected from each other. They're mostly all standalone stories with some references to the past. But Chaos Theory is the I think in my favorite in my mind's eye, it's the best one. It really encourages mostly the stealth style, but it's very good. It's got a really fun story with Sam. Um, he's just so fun and so humorous, and like kind of his sort of like um, and kind of his interactions with the rest of like the crew is more goofy and fun. Like he kind of talks about like he talks about like how he will never listen to Grimm's daughter again because she set him up with a date that went horrible. And it's like more fun stuff. Like the games are just more fun. So I really recommend the older ones. Blacklist is not bad though. Obviously, it's the most polished one. It's the most modern one. It looks great still. It's just in terms of gameplay, it works, but in terms of like the heart and spirit of Splinter Cell, it's a little bit lacking. Um, and sadly, the reason why is because Michael Ironsides at the time couldn't come back to voice Sam because he was undergoing cancer treatment at the time. So, but he's doing a lot better now. So yeah, Blacklist is not bad. It's still fun. I have also played on PC. I don't know if there's any mods to hopefully fix it. I really need to look it up. But yeah, Randy said every 2 hours. For me personally, Splinter Cell Blacklist would crash every 30 minutes.
Oh God.
Which sucks. Thankfully, each mission is about a little less than 30 minutes for me to complete, which is nice. So I just have to basically beat it before it crashes.
Nice.
It's yeah. So Blacklist is not bad. Visually, it does look a lot better on PC though. It runs better because like if you get on 360, it is going to run at like 720p 30 FPS, which is not terrible, but you know, if you want like a better visual experience, definitely go for like PC and maybe see if you can try to find some mods to fix the crashing.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, that's Blacklist. Not bad, Randy. I really hope you at least go give Chaos Theory a shot because I think Chaos Theory is beautiful. I think you would vibe with that game way more than like Blacklist. It's a lot less military machoism.
All right. Well, with that all said, go play Backlist. Seth, I imagine that's not your fresh pick this time, though. Well, would be.
No, that's an old pick for me.
That's not very fresh for Seth. What is fresh and new for Seth?
What is fresh and new for Seth is the game I've been obsessively playing for the last month now. Basically, is Persona 3 Reload. If Robert was here, I'm pretty sure he would also say it's his fresh pick, and I agree. Just to make it clear, Persona 3 Reload is a remake of Persona 3, which came out in 2005 and 6. It is a very good game. If you know anything about the Persona games, they're basically big ass anime style JRPGs. You play as a new student to a high school boarding school. You come there and then you realize that there's like these weird supernatural shit that's going on, and you team up with a group called Cease to kind of combat these like supernatural forces. So how the gameplay loop is in between like all your ventures into like this dark world where you're trying to fight these shadows, you're also spending like time outside of it, improving your social skills, getting to know like the other crewmates. Sorry, I'm thinking of Mass Effect. Getting to know your fellow like classmates and like your fellow squad mates better, improve your relationship with them. It's really good. I think the game. What convinced me to play this game is, you know what? My fresh pick isn't Persona 3 Reload.
Okay.
It's the song. It's Color Your Night. Look up Color Your Night. Listen to that song. I had really no intentions of playing Persona 3 Reload at launch because I wanted to do other things first. I had just got off Baldur's Gate 3, man. All right, like I'd already got off another big ass RPG. I didn't need another one. But then I listened to Color Your Night, and I was like, oh my god, this song is so fucking good. It is such a fucking vibe. It is representative of everything that makes Persona 3 work. And because of that, I was like, yep, I'm playing the game now, and I cannot stop because it's just the story, the vibes. It's all good, and it all stems from that one fucking song. So my fresh pick is not Persona 3 Reload. It is Color Your Night. Listen to that song, and then if you really like it, then go play it. It's on Game Pass.
Nice.
That's my fresh pick. It's the song.
Fair enough. It's a good song. I'll have to go give it a listen. Well, as for me, I don't have a fresh pick, but I'm going to pull a Seth. I'm going to have two picks, and they are both going to be Rod picks. Because Randy picked a game, Seth technically picked a song.
Oh, God. I think I
I'm
know
gonna pick
which
a
one
movie.
it is.
You know at least one of them.
I think I know.
You know at least one of them because I saw two movies. One of which I saw a couple days ago. I saw Argyle, and God, I wanted that movie to be better. It's made by the same director that did Kingsman, but God, it's just a worse version of Kingsman. It's not as fun acting. It's the only good quality from Argyle is it gets really stupid to the point where like go with friends or wait for it to come out on DVD, rent it, and get a couple drinks and watch it with friends and just make fun of it. It's so dumb. It's so stupid. But not in the like. It's not like Beekeeper where it's dumb and it's being dumb on purpose. Because there's moments where I think it's supposed to be like, oh, that's cool or whatever, but like, no, it's not. It's ridiculous and makes no sense. The story is convoluted and takes like 7 different twists and turns, and you're just like, what the fuck is even happening? And yeah, I wanted it to be so much better than it is. Because it has so many good stars, but a lot of them are just very underutilized. Like, John Cena is a very funny actor, and he can do action well. He has 2 lines in the movie, and that's it. I wish Argyle was better, but at the very least, I can say Argyle is so bad it's good. And then I saw Madam Web the other night.
Yep, there it is.
That's just so bad it's bad.
That's Seth. Let me tell you something. I would rather watch Morbius again. It's worse than
Damn.
Morbius.
Something.
That's horrible.
It's
That's
bad.
really bad.
Because Morbius is a little bit so bad it's good. But at the very least, I can tell what's happening in the fight scenes in Morbius. It's better than what's happening in Madam Web.
Can you?
Yeah, I can. And there's also actual fight scenes in
Only
Morbius.
because one is orange and one is purple
Yes, that's it.
in Morbius.
And in Madam Web, there's barely any fight scenes. It's just these characters sitting around talking. And God, the dialogue is so boring and bad. And the main villain, super forgettable.
What was the line from the trailer? It was like, he worked with my mom before she died, while she was in the Amazon studying spiders.
Studying spiders, yeah.
Like the fucking. Oh God.
It's so much like this is my first year of drama camp, like level of acting, and fucking Seth. You want to know what the absolute worst part about this film is the main villain, for whatever reason, his audio dubbing on his lines, every single line he has is off. Every time he opens and moves his mouth, it looks like you're watching like a dub of a movie that was in a different language, and there's an English guy speaking. Like, it's not matching what his mouth is doing. And they do so many things where they're hiding his face so that you can't see his lips, and at first I'm like, is it just like the one scene? Is that what every line with this dude? I don't know why, but it's terrible. Every time the main character uses her power too, it's like someone grabbed your face and just like shook it violently for like 2 seconds and be like, all right, now go back to watching. You're like, what the fuck was that? The other like 3 like Spider Women in this, you never actually see them get their powers. You only see them use their power in like flash forwards, but they never get their powers or use them in fun ways because they're not heroes. They're just teenage girls, and that's all they do. And they have the strength of teenage girls.
They're supposed to be teenagers?
What? What did you say?
Oh, I said like they're supposed to be teenagers?
They're supposed to be teenagers. Yes. Yeah, Sydney Sweeney is supposed to be a
right.
teenager. Yeah, I don't know why either. But yeah. Everyone except like Madam Web herself is a teenager. They also try to like tie it into like Peter Parker because her other like coworker, his name is Ben Parker. And they say his name. They say Ben Parker. Like, that's obviously Uncle Ben, and he's like, oh, I'm seeing a girl. What's her name? I can't tell you. It's like, okay, obviously her name's May. Why are we doing it? And he's like, I also have a sister. She's having a baby. And then they keep making, what's the baby's name? Oh, we haven't decided yet. We don't know. Like, do you want to try to guess? And you're just like, just say his name's Peter. We get it. We know who it's supposed to be. It's so fucking stupid. I hated it. It was, yeah. Don't watch it. Don't even watch it as a gag, because like, there was only like a few moments where like me and my like friends like laughed out loud at moments we weren't supposed to. It's at the very end spoilers, when she's sitting in the Madam Web chair. That, for whatever reason, that got us, and that was fucking hilarious. It wasn't supposed to be. It was supposed to be like cool, rally together. That was the funniest thing I've ever seen. Her pulling up in this wheelchair.
I think it's always kind of baffled me that like it's like, and granted, like, say what I know you had your issues with Amazing Spider-Man, say what you will, but like the Amazing Spider-Man movies weren't this bad. What is up with Sony for like the past like 5 or so years where it is just dog shit when it comes to their take on like Spider-Man type characters, except for Spider-Man himself.
Yeah, because they're not using Spider-Man. I don't know why they refuse to do real, because most of these characters don't have real origins. They have 2 pages worth of origin, and they're like, we can make a movie out of this. So here's to see what the hell they do with Kraven.
Yeah, I mean, like, but it's like it's been like this with Venom, it's been like this with Morbius, and now it's like this movie, and Kraven is not looking much better.
Bro, so think about this. Venom is like their Iron Man. The first Venom is the best of these movies. And honestly, the second Venom's the second best.
That's bizarre.
Well, you're telling me you didn't like the scene where he says, you're like a turd in the wind?
I did read.
That is a line from the comics.
Yeah,
to be
and
fair,
it's the smartest written movie of any Sony of like these Sony Spider-Man movies. That movie. Just think about that. Just let that sink in.
To me, it just like it baffles me because it's like even Amazing Spider-Man 2 were not. They had issues, but they weren't necessarily like bad. Not like this. Like, what the fuck happened to Sony? Like in terms of like its live action productions, because it feels like they've like lost their minds.
Yeah, they're not doing well. But oh my god, I could do a whole podcast about how bad these are, and maybe that's a future podcast of every terrible Sony movie. But I think that's all I'm gonna say for this. It's awful. It was funny, but it was awful. So I want to thank you two for coming on and talking about some superhero games. This terrible man that beats up homeless people. Randy, I hope you enjoyed your time.
I don't agree with that at all.
You shouldn't. Yeah. You would agree with the 1%, wouldn't you, Seth? Disrespectful, honestly. Randy, it was great having you.
It was a fun time.
Okay. Hey, Seth, always glad to have you on.
Yeah, sure, I guess.
Batman's a terrible person. Anyway, thank you all for listening and watching and completely agreeing with everything I just said. Have a nice day and stay safe out there. Goodbye.